All right, good afternoon. It might be morning where you are, but I'm Lee Martin Seymour. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Xref.com. I'm joined today by Jane Bianchini from Alcami Video Interviewing. Jane is a friend, a longtime friend of the Xref business, and Jane and I are both founders of our respective businesses. We share about half a century of recruitment experience, about 25 years on my side and about 22 on Jane's. I think we must have started recruitment when we were about 10, right, Jane?
Oh, at least.
So look, last week we saw the biggest migration of humans in history. And by migrations, I mean from our offices to our homes. And we didn't just move our lives into our houses with our families, but we moved our careers in, but at the same time have the same responsibilities. Jane and I are fortunate enough to have launched businesses from our bedrooms and recruited from our bedrooms. So hopefully we've got something to share this afternoon. But you know, we still need to be able to recruit remotely, and what does that mean, and what changes and technology is afforded to us to make that easier. So we wanted to talk to Jane today about the rise of video interviewing within the industry, and just to have a few discussions around the differences that candidates and recruiters are finding being behind screens rather than in coffee shops and interview rooms. So look, Jane, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Lee. Look, it's great to connect with you virtually, and to everyone who's watching this, welcome to my kitchen. This is my new office for the foreseeable future, and I've enjoyed actually the human side of going in with some video conferencing packages and getting a little glimpse into people's lives and their personalities as well. So yeah, here I am too.
Just like having a sticky beak into people's lounges, right?
Yeah.
All right, everyone is short on time, and let's add some value to people's lives this afternoon, Jane. So I'm going to kick off with the first question, and I just wanted to know, you've spent so much time in this space, you know, and given your background in the industry, can you share some personal experiences of video interviewing, whether that be on a video conference or on a video platform? You know, not just the good experiences, but where it's gone bad.
Sure. So let's just look at video conferencing to start with. I think the most commonly used phrase of late is, can you see me? Can you hear me? Even this morning I was on the phone with a client and was giving her some tech support on how to tether to her phone while NBN came and fixed her home internet connection. So there's probably some good, bad and ugly in all of that, but we had some fun there. I think from a video interviewing perspective, what's giving me some really, you know, great food for thought is how organisations are now starting to use video interviewing platforms more broadly for different use cases. So, for instance, think, you know, we've got one client saying they want to use it for full-blown interviews, not just for pre-screening. So thinking about building out robust question sets with longer thinking and answer times to replace that face-to-face interview. We've got others that are using it for assessment centres, post-placement pulse checks, internal staff surveys, onboarding, some OH&S assessments, just to kind of name a few. So that's been really interesting for me to see how people are becoming a little bit more creative with the use of digital and video interviewing platforms.
Okay.
And I guess some of the bad approaches, just from some early lessons learned from video interviewing, I'd say the biggest mistake is not giving candidates enough time to think about their responses. We had a law firm who gave some candidates 10-second prep time, and I think it was 30 seconds to answer pretty meaty questions, and that was brutal. And we were told very clearly by the candidates that was just not great. So we've obviously changed our approach and counselled our clients on the use of that. So yeah, I think also candidates are becoming a little bit fatigued with text-based questions. So I think that's probably not a great experience for candidates. So anywhere that you can start to make the interaction more enriching from a visual or a video point of view to showcase your company's culture, and make it less formal and more digitally conversational, I think is going to get you out of those bad approaches.
Well, we gave you, didn't we, today? So, and you had enough time to put the cookbook on the kitchen and let everybody know that you're a great cook.
I use that cookbook. It's not a Zoom prop, but I'm going to try and find some more.
I have Zoom props. All right. So, in terms of video interviewing, do you think there are different questions that you should ask a candidate on a video conference or on a video interviewing platform that you would ordinarily ask on a phone?
Yeah, definitely one-way video questions are different from a phone screen. And I see organisations now tailoring their questions to their audience. So let me think. So one example comes to mind where we've got an organisation that they used to ask, what are your top 3 core values? And that question you would probably need a little bit of probing and following up, which would be okay in phone, but not so great in asynchronous land. So we've seen that particular organisation reframe their question to one of their core values is environmental sustainability. So they say, their question is, from memory, I think it's like, one of our top core values is environmental sustainability. In your opinion, what's the most pressing environmental issue currently? So what that's given them is the ability for the candidates to discuss what they believe in to be like the most pressing issue for them. And it doesn't matter if another candidate gets hold of that question, because there's no right or wrong answer. But you could be looking for topics that they discuss, a bit, I don't know, global warming or energy resources or declining biodiversity. It really doesn't matter. It's what they share with you, and you might be looking for good justification, passionate connection, or not, to assess bias. So there's no right or wrong answers with video questions per se, and that's how I would recommend structuring it. But, yeah.
I think on the phone, we're trying to tick the job spec box, and probably trying to hire skills, whereas on the video, we're about, we have the ability to hire culture first and phone second, right?
Well, it's true. And, in my 20 odd years in IT recruitment before I founded Alcami Interactive, I would spend my days educating employers, if you hire for skill, you're going to end up firing for your behavioural competencies. So hire the behavioural competency and train the slight skill deficit, should there be one. But if you hire for personality, culture fit, or culture add, I should say, and behavioural competencies, you're going to have a far more robust workforce that has some cohesiveness and alignment.
Yeah. And I think that what's helped video interviewing in the industry is the influx of iPhones in 2007 and people talking to their families on video. And now it's second nature that we walk along on a video call talking to our families in another country. So when we're asked to interview on video, most of the industry now is acceptable of it.
And with the recent changes with social distancing and social isolation, I'm sure we'll be watching this in 2 or 3 years' time and go, God, what was all the fuss about? He's hoping. But that certainly has changed and forced the way people approach technology and becoming more familiar and comfortable with seeing themselves on camera and using these technologies to gain momentum and keep that cadence with their businesses, for sure.
I video interview video call my wife, and she's only upstairs. All right. So, in terms of video interviewing hitting mainstream, what kind of roles suit it best? What are the majority of the types of roles that you see being successful in video interviewing?
Well, I think video interviewing has arrived, and I'd probably say that has been the case for now about, 9-12 months in terms of hitting mainstream outside of your typical grad or bulk recruitment. You know, our platform's used, you know, in 20 different countries. So we're seeing everything from A to Z on our platform. One of our clients, for instance, is a logistics and supply chain company, and they came to us it's about 9-12 months ago and said, look, we want to try this out on our truck drivers. And I went, you're nuts, like it just won't work, but hey, you know, if you want to give it a go, go for it. It turned out it was the most successful role they had on their platform, and they had a 5-fold increase in productivity. As the truck drivers just loved it. I mean, we had an over 90% return rate, just as an example.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, but we're seeing other things like law enforcement dog trainers, fingerprint, forensic analysts, marketing coordinators, claims advisors, physical education officers, vetting officers, talent pathway coordinators, media coordinators, like you name it. We're even seeing organisations use it to test bilingual capability. So we've got a global law firm as one of our clients, and in China they wanted to test bilingual capability. So they recorded 3 questions in English with the English text alongside the English speaking person asking the question on video, and then 3 Mandarin questions with Chinese text and the Chinese speaking person on video. And I mean, they quickly saw who was bilingual and who wasn't.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I think we've lived similar careers, Jane, but I think our businesses are living very similar lives. You know, ultimately, we've been told as talent acquisition and recruitment specialists to you know, to think about our businesses as marketing businesses, and to put much like marketing put their heads in the consumer's position, we must put our heads in the position of the candidate. And you know, it's to me, it's no surprise that truck drivers really embrace it, because I've seen similar roles embrace automated referencing because it's just convenient. And if you have a truck driver that's working through the night, he's probably really, or she is probably really used to dealing with or talking to their family on FaceTime.
Yeah.
And probably they would like to do these activities when they're not driving in the day, and probably during the night when everybody else is asleep. So not only is it good to be able to do it at any time, it's fantastic to be able to for them to do that interview on a device that sits in their pocket, and they're used to doing it anyway because that's how they communicate with the family. So it's
and at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? So when the talent acquisition specialists are not awake.
That's right. And the other thing you said is that you know, the industry has woken up to this. You know, it's now mainstream, and you and I have both lived the lives of going out and educating and telling people how much better their lives would be if they work, you know, if they utilize these platforms. So, you know, I think now, and the changes that we're seeing have put pressure on you know, the education around this, and people are hunting better ways of doing these activities, and so that sort of leads me on to the next question, right? So what do you think you can do on a video interview that isn't possible on the phone, you know, or with, you know, what's possible on video that you can't do on a traditional phone screen?
I think it's just to simplify it, it's actually just to become a lot more efficient, if in the traditional sense, to reduce a 20-minute phone screen down to a 5 minute or so video response. So, you know, in some instances we're achieving, you know, 80% ROI, and with this efficiency you can get on top of candidates faster. To give you an example of that, we had a client who had over 1,000 applicants in a very competitive situation, in which those same 1,000 applicants would most likely have applied to their direct competitor. And our client got through these responses in 8 hours, which normally would have taken them over 2 weeks. And, you know, guess what? I mean, they were on the phone to their chosen top candidates, while their competitor, who didn't use video interviewing, was still looking through CVs. You know, offers had been made before the competitor had a chance to even pick up the phone to get to the top talent. So I think it's a very strong efficiency play. Efficiency play. And with some new uses, we're seeing it becoming an effective play as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think also, you know, from a phone point of view, it's one person as a talent acquisition specialist on the phone blindly communicating about the organisation, and the candidate blindly communicating about themselves. So with video interviewing, you've got the opportunity to showcase your brand, your culture, your diversity, some promo videos, some blooper reels to show the human side of your business. So you can, apart from that, you get a lot more immersive and rich experience for the candidate. And you know, what I also see is that the consumer world has been very good at promoting and forcing a digital rich experience in B2C, and so in B2C. And so what candidates are now wanting to see is they're wanting that same enriched, frictionless experience in their job seeker world as well.
Yeah, good point. Really. And as an adjunct to that, you know, in terms of, you know, visual cues and body language, you know, I think we get the best out of people when they're comfortable. So how can we make these candidates, albeit on the other end of a screen, how can we help them become more comfortable so that they have a good, you know, an interview experience?
Yeah, and it's a really good point, because in our research we see that candidates who do a video interview for the first time, they've got high anxiety levels, they don't understand the process, they're a little bit nervous about doing it, they get through it, and then when they're asked, you know, would they do another one, we get 100% saying yes. But I think it's about the UX experience, it's about that B2C experience. And you know, if I give you an analogy, traditionally, if we made candidates come into the office, take it into an interview room, fill out some forms, wait until the interviewer came into the room, you know, there's a few little steps in there that creates a bit of emotional friction, so to speak, versus being greeted by the recruiter and saying, you know, shaking hands and saying, hey, should we have a chat over a coffee? So I think, you know, to give that analogy, to ensure that whichever tool you're choosing, make sure you're choosing a tool that is frictionless and effortless for a candidate to come in and to make into the interview, and to make the experience as interactive and as informal as possible. So, you know, another little tip we give our clients is the last question you ask, see if you can find a question that will elicit an emotional response of joy or happiness to get those dopamine levels up. So, you know, this one question might be, you know, what was the last gift you gave someone? As an example, that might give some people some anxiety, but, you know, that's the first one I could think of. But making sure that the candidates are left with a very positive experience of your brand and the experience that they've just been through.
Yeah, great. And it's funny how we used to interview candidates. You know, people would walk in, the receptionist would give them an interview card. They would be locked in a room with no window.
Yes.
They haven't even got a promise of a job yet, and they've got to fill out a form. It's the most anxious part of the whole job application. And then somebody comes in and sits and stares at their resume for God knows how long, and literally just asks questions on the resume. You know, you and I both know, like when I used to interview, I'd take them for a coffee. So we were in both neutral areas. I wouldn't even sit with a resume. If you walk through some of the Sydney food courts in core hours, you see people sitting there with resumes and reading it and talking to the person. You go, they're on interview.
I think that
just have a human conversation, you know.
It builds a lot more trust. And, you know, when we heat map words of candidates' experience, when we A/B test video and text, the biggest word that comes out is respect. They feel respected. So I think to create some of those human emotions of trust and respect through a digital experience is going to see you as an organisation be streets ahead and also most memorable. So if you're hiring for candidates that are going to apply for 5, 6, 10 jobs, and they get 3 to 5 offers, how is your brand going to stand out in your recruitment experience to make you memorable, to shift the dial, to make them make a decision towards your brand? And it's through a digital experience.
Yeah. So, given all that, get to the end of the interview.
Yeah.
In terms of video interview platforms, what kind of AI is sitting behind these platforms that we can, we really want to divide the art and the science. So, both of us understand that being a professional recruiter is a profession, and it's an art, that, has a backbone of being a human and a great conversationalist, a great storyteller, and hopefully an okay interviewer, right? But as part of that, we need to speed up the process, and we need to gain insights quickly that work for our decisions, so that we're not making a gut-driven decision on what we've seen and heard, but we're making a decision with our heads on the data that we're getting back as well. So, what sort of AI can we leverage within these, within a video interview platform?
So I love this question, and I get asked about AI all the time. And we've taken a position kind of as at the time of recording this in, very early 2020. Our belief is that AI sits at the top of the funnel in recruiting. So thinking about finding candidates, sourcing candidates, getting into little rabbit holes to find candidates that, might not necessarily be clicking apply now or attach resume, send. I think that's where AI belongs today. We've done our own experiments and studies with AI, and at the video interview stage. And we have come to the conclusion that you kind of need an enormous amount of words to be able to give you any indication at a research level to give you meaningful results. In our experiments on hundreds and hundreds of people, we treated this as a scientific experiment with data scientists and org sites. So it was the conditions were set scientifically. We could not find any meaningful or strong enough correlation to replace human judgment at the bottom end of the funnel. And so one of the vendors that we used would say that you need 1,500 words to give an indication. When you take a step back and you speak to our data scientists who are vendor agnostic, they say, no, it's probably more like 10,000 words. So to give you a view of that, 10,000 words is an hour's speech. It's 10,000 words within work emails, not 5,000 emails and 5,000 social. You're comparing apples with pears there. So to replace, I think AI absolutely has a place in recruitment at the top of the funnel when it's good at processing large volumes of data to sift through, to make good decisions that are easily made through machine learning. But when you get to the bottom of the funnel, it's about judgment. And so we take the view that if you can then set the environment so that you're pushing your recruitment as far as you can from a merit-based point of view and giving evaluators the best conditions to minimize their biases, whether it be gender, whether it be appearance, whether it be ethnic clues through somebody's name or appearance. If you can minimize that and minimize groupthink by not sharing your thoughts with another evaluator all on a platform, then you're going to be in the best position to decide who goes through to the next round. That kind of then leads into how does psychometric assessments and video interviewing work. For those who like to use assessments, it would be you would give candidates a gamification or an online assessment alongside a video interview, then sort by the top ranking candidates from the assessment and then just watch those videos. So we think that's a better and more robust way of evaluating that human being, their capability for the role, rather than letting a machine at the bottom of the funnel decide. So we know that AI at the bottom of the funnel in recruitment is going through the courts in the US at the moment. I'm not sure micro-messaging of the face is reliable enough yet when you think about variants in devices. You know, someone could have an Android phone they purchased from a supermarket that morning versus an iPhone XR. So just even the variability of the camera produces biases. So we're just sitting tight. We're certainly very passionate about seeing great new technology evolve, you know, in that mid to bottom level of the funnel. I'm just not, our position is we're just not going down that path just yet.
That's great. Because who's the best to make the decision on the candidate?
Yeah, and you know, being in recruitment, Lee, you'll know this as much as I do. The candidate is always guilty until proven innocent. So let's give the candidates a bit of a chance first, and then and let's make some human decisions rather than let the computers make it for us. Absolutely.
Now, I recently got asked a very sticky question, and I was speaking on the value of being human and the value of telling stories. And somebody after I'd been on stage and talking about this topic, somebody said, "You own an online technology platform. How can you talk about the value of being human and telling stories?" And I said, well, in actual fact, if you divide, as I said, you know, the art and the science, and you use, you know, Xref is built, same as Alcami is built, to take away the arduous task and leave the art to the people that know how to do it. And in fact, if we can afford people right now more time to be more human and kind to their candidates, then that's just a good thing. And Jane, it's been an absolute delight to do this. I think this is the longest conversation we've had without a Sauvignon Blanc in our hands.
I wish I had one now.
Yeah, I'm going to go and get one. But it's been
it's 11 a.m.
Mate, it's been an absolute delight, and your insight into this video interviewing and remote interviewing is fantastic, and your ability to outshine as a human and you know, your kind nature shines not only through your team, but your, you know, the platform and your clients that you serve. So thank you very much this afternoon. It's been fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much, Lee. And look, what I will say is that if anyone just wants a casual conversation without a sales pitch or just some information about anything that we've talked about today, I'm more than happy to be hit up and just have a good old yarn without any agenda, just in the interest of educating the market on a great new sector that's rising. So yeah, happy to help.
That's epic, Jane. I'll see you in the cellar.
See you there.
Thanks so much.
Bye, take care.